Greetings! I'm Grasscat, and I'm here to ask the question that no one else is asking. Can you one shot per phase, one trigger pull per phase, all the bosses and once human? Okay, this is gonna take some explanation. The original idea of, I wonder if it's possible to one-shot bosses, came to me while I was helping another content creator make a different once-human video. I quickly discovered some problems with the idea, however. The biggest problem? Well, it's literally impossible. In the Manibus scenario, of the 4 main monolith bosses, 3 of them have a mechanic where they go invulnerable after doing 2 bars worth of damage, and there is no getting around it. Demonstrating on my private server in perfect gear, might I add, I can almost take out the first 2 bars on Hunter with about a 74k sniper shot. Then I hit it with a Mr. Wish rocket. These are stupidly powerful items that do an absurd 400,000 damage on a dummy with my current build. And as you can see, the health doesn't budge past 2 bars down. Just to prove the point, I hit the Hunter with another rocket and take out the next 2 bars with 1 hit. So this reveals 2 problems. First, a one-shot is literally impossible. Even if I could solve the damage problem, the game is just hard-coded to not allow the bosses to go down past 2 bars. The second is damage is a problem. My test character is in the literal best gear you can possibly get with max upgrades on everything. And I still don't one-shot phase the Hunter, the weakest of all the bosses. Now, I can already hear the comments coming from the peanut gallery. Shush. Keep in mind this is a one-shot challenge. I am very much aware that you can get a lot more damage than 74k with a single sniper shot, but to get that requires setup from other shots. Unless I'm completely wrong, in which case, tell me the build in the comments, I guess. But yeah, no, if you are trying to do a one-shot, single instance of damage, that takes out a lot of the tricks the meta builds use. And with that consideration, I didn't even bother trying on the other 3. There's just no chance. If I can't one-shot phase Hunter, the level 10 boss, I don't have any chance on the level 20 or 30 or 40 bosses. And no, I don't consider the Mr. Wish rockets a solution. I mean, they'd work, but they're boring. Using the Mr. Wish rockets isn't interacting with the mechanics, it's just how efficient is your oil farming. Now, I didn't want to give up here, and so I thought on this for a bit and came up with my final idea. Can I do a 1-trigger pull per phase? In other words, once I pull the trigger, I can't let it go until the boss is either dead or an invulnerability phase has started. One quick test later to confirm that yes, I can easily do that on Hunter with high-level gear, and we've got our challenge. Now, while I get my main character set up on a fresh scenario, let's go over specifics. I am doing this on the Manibus scenario. No special modifiers. Keeping things nice and simple for my first challenge run on Once Human. I must open all cradle slots. That means clearing the monolith and silo bosses associated with each slot. All bosses, which, by the way, means the enemies with the giant segmented health bar, must be either killed in one trigger pull, or one trigger pull per phase and or gimmick for the fight. I am not allowed to gear past the recommended level of the silo or monolith. So since Hunter is recommended for level 10, I'm allowed tier 2 gear, and so on. And of course, I'm doing this on the regular servers, not my private server. So let's get this show on the road. After transferring to a new server, I need to select which items I'm bringing over. Nothing fancy, just a chainsaw and drill to help remove some boring grind, plus a few basic deviants to help speed up the initial setup. After setting up a basic seaside house, the first goal is to reach level 10. Trivial task, just need to clear this week's commissions. And with that done, I need to go raiding through several strongholds to gather up the materials for my tier 2 gear set. Now, while this is happening in the background, let's warp forward to the end of the run and look at the final gear and mod set. This doesn't really change throughout the run except for some minor variations, and this is the build used for the final 2 most difficult fights. Take it away, future me. And welcome to the future. Let's take a look at the build. Start off with the gear. We have 3 pieces of the Bastille set that gives me a plus 40% weapon damage if I am crouched and not moving. We have the barbecue gloves to speed up the frequency in which burn gets applied as I have higher and higher stacks. And 2 items from the Stormweaver set to give an additional 15% bonus to my magazine capacity. Very important to have as much ammo as possible. Alright, and so taking a look at the mods, there's only 2 that I really consider critical. One is on the helmet, which gives me a buff after switching weapons, both to fire rate and weapon damage. This does bleed off after a little bit, but I'll always at least have some bonus. Then I have the covered advance on the shoes. Gives me a 20% bonus as long as I haven't taken damage. We'll lose this partway through the fight, but it is nice while it lasts. And then finally I have the barbecue gloves with a very nice bonus to blaze damage. The rest of them are just sort of okay. I honestly didn't have anything besides this purple that I wanted to put on the pants slot. I'm going to take hits, so yeah, I'll take the extra HP. So again, some shielding, so that way at least when I start the fight, I've got a decent amount of shielding to prevent damage. And then just a little bit of a boost to crit rate and damage if I'm hitting burning enemies, which I should always be hitting burning enemies. As far as weapons are concerned, for the melee weapon, I should have had the long axe equipped, but I'm an idiot, and I forgot about the Fortress Warfare power until after I finished the challenge. Instead, I spent most of the time having the stun baton equipped for dealing with trash enemies while I was doing fortress runs. Go me. The secondary weapon is utterly irrelevant. As you can see, it's still a tier 1. I never use this, except by mistake once. The star of the show is the KVD Boom Boom light machine gun. The 18% chance to trigger burn on hit is okay, but the star of the show is the 300% psi intensity explosion that it does on the first hit and every 2 seconds thereafter. This is where a lot of my damage comes from. In addition, the explosion automatically applies a stack of burn, and it increases my blaze damage by 30%. As far as the mods that are on this, we have the Burning Wrath for an additional chance to stack additional burn counters on an enemy. And for the accessories, most of these are selected to increase the stability, because it's absolutely critical that I keep on target and not waste any bullets. The exception to this is the large magazine, which gives me an extra 20 shots with any given reload. The fact that it murders my reload speed's kind of irrelevant, because if I have to reload before phase transition, I lost, so it doesn't matter. Taking a look at the cradle, again, keep in mind that these are not all unlocked at start. They get unlocked in order as I go through and complete things, so I never actually had this slot open to do a challenge with. I take that back. I did have the slot open for the last silo. But in order, plus 15% to light machine guns, plus 15% to status damage after hitting a weak spot. Tactical leap, I almost never remember to actually use this plus 20%. Another plus 15% after weapon switching. A bonus 25% to elemental damage. Additional burn stacking and burn damage. And again, a buff that probably would have been really nice to use, but as mentioned, I am an idiot and forgot that the axe has the ability to grant Fortress. Alright, so let's go in the house and take a look at what potions and food buffs I used. The main food buff that I used was the crumbly bread, giving me a plus 25% increase to all weapon damage. And I didn't use that until the final two fights. Pretty much all of the fights I didn't actually really bother with food buffs too much, other than just to make sure that I was, most of the time, remembering to drink malt ale or corn ale so that I wasn't losing sanity points. As far as potions go, pretty much the only one that I really relied on for combat damage was living armor, just in case I messed up and took too much damage. Although, honestly, if I took enough damage to activate this, I probably got knocked out of shooting anyways and had to reset. And spring legs, theoretically, because it would help me get the glide bonus, which again, I almost never remembered to actually do. And then just a quick shout out to my little bees over here who helped make sure that I had plenty of deviated aloe for the crumbly bread. Good job, little bees. You did well. And with that, let's go back to the past. Alright, with everything set up, it's time to kill the hunter. Now, I wasn't very worried going into the hunter fight, and with good reason. It is the first of the bosses, and generally a very easy fight when playing normally, and this proved no different. After 2 bars of damage, Hunter goes invulnerable, and you have to destroy 2 nests before it'll come back down. It then repeats this pattern after another 2 bars of damage, and in the final stage, he shoots rockets at you. Honestly, this was the only part that had any risk, because there was a chance that I'll take an unlucky rocket to the face and get knocked over before I kill it. But as you can see, it's a first try fight. Now with my first cradle slot unlocked, I can select a buff to light machine gun damage and move on to the first silo. I was a little concerned about this one since there would be no gimmick here, just a straight DPS check to see if I can take out the Rosetta boss at the end. Shouldn't have been worried. Both the optional side boss and the main boss of the silo go down without any hassle. Another first try. A quick additional note here. Most of the silos have an optional side boss hidden somewhere inside of them. But these don't have the full multi-segmented health bars at the top of the screen, so I'm not counting them as being part of the challenge because you can skip them, they're optional. However, I do my best to make sure that I kill them in one trigger pull in the spirit of things. At this point, I had to do a tiny bit of level grinding, given that I'm level 17 and need to be at 20 for the next tier of equipment. Nothing too painful. Yet. And after a little bit of stronghold raiding, I am all set for the next boss. Another quick note here. As long as I'm fighting at level enemies, the KVD makes very short work of them, so there's nothing really interesting happening while I'm running around and grinding resources. So I just skip most of those parts. Treant is the next boss, and the gimmick here is you have to shoot down the 3 roots in the arena before the boss becomes vulnerable. I make short work of the roots, and then it's time to test my damage output against the boss. Do I have enough bullets to take out that health pool all in one go? Yes, I do, but there's not much wiggle room. Still, another first try. Next, I make a bit of a silly mistake in the run and take on Silo EX1. I do not need to do this. Silo EX1 doesn't unlock anything, and that happens to be a good thing due to the boss in this. The big radio tower looking thing plays a game of green light, red light with you. Lights are green, you can move. Lights are red, you will get frozen in place and lasered if you move. I actually like this fight, it's kind of neat. The problem for the challenge is how the damage works. Each light has its own health pool that contributes to the overall health of the boss. So you have to destroy each light one at a time to defeat it. It almost feels like cheating, getting to reload so often, but I really couldn't think of any other way to handle this fight other than treating each light as its own one trigger pull gimmick. If anyone has thoughts on this boss, I'd love to read about it in the comments. And to top all that off, I failed. One of the ads hits me from the side and interrupts my firing. I do come back later and kill the boss without screwing up, but all things considered, this was a bit of a flub on my part, so I go ride an airplane and shoot down some balloons for stress relief, as one does. I'm level 21 at this point, and I am out of commissions to do. So I do some house construction, get some preemptive resource grinding in, and then take a small break until Monday when commissions are refreshed. A quick set of commissions later, and I'm ready to take on the next fight, Arachnos, or Spider as I call her. If you don't like spiders, you might want to skip this one. Spider is very similar to Hunter, in that after 2 bars of damage, she goes invulnerable, and you have to shoot down 4 egg sacs on the edge of the arena. Nothing too hard, or interesting if I'm honest. Spider has always been my least favorite fight, since it just feels like a redone Hunter fight. All that said, it wasn't a first-time victory. The first time, I screwed up with my weapon swapping, and I fired a crossbow bolt into her. A trivial amount of damage, but a mistake is a mistake. So I dump all my arrows so that won't happen again, and I went in for another round. This time I goofed so hard on my first attack that by the time the blaze damage ended, she still had a sliver of health left. Alright, one more time, this time with feeling. Spider was one of the trickier ones so far, due to how she falls down off the spire and you have to track her. But this time, I killed it, and I killed it with fire. And the monolith is now spider-free. It is at this point that I finally figure out that I goofed on the silos, and head on over to take on Silo Phi. This was another one I wasn't too worried about, since most claw machines are fairly easy to take out. I run around the boss arena, destroying the nest to trigger the boss to spawn, hop up on a box, and I gun down the claw boss in short order. And now we're gonna do a bit of a time skip. I'm at level 32. It's Monday night, which means I've got an entire week before the next set of commissions hit. So I either stop playing for a week, or I get to grinding. I choose the grind. I am not a patient man. There's not much to say here. The challenge is about bosses, not normal gameplay. I do run back through a couple of silos and dungeons, but anytime the boss health bar pops up on the screen, I respect the rules of the run. All of this combined with clearing nearly every quest off the board, and I am ready for the final two bosses. After a quick snack for a 25% damage boost. Or at least, that's what I had in the original script. After going over the footage, I realized that I utterly failed at the silo fight, and had several small errors in the Shadow Hound fight. Thankfully, I can't out-level the last two fights. Tier 5 gear is Tier 5 gear. But I am still deeply annoyed that I have to redo these fights. Alright, let's do this. I unequip the cradle slots from the monolith and silo in question. I burn a duplicate recipe to spawn in a can of fruit for extra weak point damage, because I am not doing this again. Express my displeasure against the optional silo boss by instantly stunning it and gunning it into oblivion. Run all the way to the back of the boss arena and jump up on the balcony so the glutton cannot get another cheeky stomp to break me out of firing. And then proceed to remind it why evil should fear fire. Next up is the Shadow Hound, who has been a very bad dog. Do some mostly pointless jumping, because I remember pointing out earlier that I hardly ever did this. And proceed to disrespect the Shadow Hound in the pettiest way possible. You can see where I'm aiming. Panic a little bit when it does the final insta-down wind-up move. Get the last weak spot taken off, and finish it off with the last of my bullets. And that's Silo and the Shadow Hound done properly. So that's all the bosses, right? We're all done, right? Well, not quite. See, I chose the goal of unlocking all cradle slots for a very specific reason: the Forsaken Giant. This boss is technically the last boss of the story, despite not having any associated cradle slots. One can also argue that it is technically not the last boss of the story, because it doesn't have any associated cradle slots. It is also quite literally impossible. Now, in the footage you're seeing right now, I was using my steel ammo instead of tungsten AP ammo, but that would not have changed anything. While the body isn't technically immune to damage, it might as well be, given how little you do. The only time you can inflict serious damage is when the glowing pink spots show up, and most of the time they don't last long enough for me to empty a full magazine into them. It's just this constant parade of chip damage. You can't even permanently destroy any of them. The giant just keeps cycling through them. If there's a way to do this fight within the rules of my challenge, I just can't see it. Even the Mr. Wish rocket wouldn't help, as there is a video out there showing the rocket almost one-shotting the giant, but that was with a perfect setup for explosion damage. But thankfully, it doesn't have a cradle slot, so the challenge is complete. Every boss that unlocks a cradle slot killed with one trigger pull per phase or gimmick. This was a fun little challenge. really enjoy doing it, and I've got several more fun ideas for future challenges, so hang around for that if it sounds interesting. And with that, we're done. If you enjoyed the video, hitting the thumbs up button would be appreciated, and if not, well, the thumbs down button is right next to it. Until next time.